Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I got here the Honda Pioneer 1000 Deluxe and we're going to install the High Lifter lift kit. Let's do it. Okay, here's everything that comes in the High Lifter kit. We got our front brackets, our rear brackets, and then our bolts and spacers. Along with the lift kit, I will be installing these 1.5-inch wheel spacers on the front and rear. So I got the front of the vehicle jacked up. I also got some jack stands underneath it just in case. The first thing we need to do is remove the front tires. Okay, the next thing we need to do is remove these bolts out of the top of the shocks. And remember, whatever we do to one side, we'll also do the other side. Okay, now that I got the suspension down out of the way, I can start installing the front brackets. The first bracket will slide right along the rear of the original shock mounts here. We'll stick a 65mm bolt in there and the 4Y spacer. And here on the other side, I'll slide the bolt and the spacer in as well. Okay, with the rear bracket installed, I can install the front bracket. Okay, so before I can get the front bracket in place, I just had to remove this plastic panel here. It's held in place by 3 push pins. I'll throw that aside, and then we can slide our front bracket up in. I'll leave these bolts here loose until I get the shocks into place, which we can do now. We're going to use this small spacer here, the AA spacer, and that is going to go on the rear of the shock. So I'll put the bolt through, and then the spacer, then line the shock up, and put a nut on it. I'll do the same thing here on the opposite side. Okay, now that I got all my bolts installed, I'll go ahead and tighten everything up. Okay, so I went around and made sure I had all my bolts tight. We're all good there. So now we can put on the tires and move on to the rear end. Now that I got the lift kit installed, we just need to install the wheel spacers. While you're watching along here, do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button. And if you're enjoying this one, smash that thumbs up. If you're interested in any of the gear I use, check out the links in the description below. With the wheel spacers installed, the last thing that's left to do is reinstall the tires. Okay, so now as you can see, I'm here at the rear of the vehicle. I got the tires off already. We're up on jack stands. And just like the front, we're gonna remove the bolt out of the top of the shock. Okay, on the rear, I will have to remove this wire here, just pull it out of the way. And then I got a rear mounting plate. We'll take one of our longer bolts and a AA spacer, and we'll stick it through our original shock mount hole, just like so. Now I'll take this 4Y spacer and I'll put that in the middle of the frame where the shock used to be. And then on the outside of the original shock mount, we'll put another AA spacer. In this bottom hole here, we're going to put in another long bolt. And then we're going to put in a 510 spacer. I can now install the second bracket. And I'll put the nuts on there and I'll just leave them loose. The next thing I need to do is take another long bolt, put it through this hole here, and then we'll put this 51N spacer in there. Put the nut on it, leave it loose. Okay, now to finish up the rear, we'll take an 85mm bolt and a double J spacer, or spacer, and then we'll go through the shock. And we'll put another double J spacer. Finish it off with the nut. Okay, now that I got all the bolts in, I'll go along and tighten everything up. So it is the same process for the other side. I don't need to show you how to do that. We're all done here on the rear end. Now that I got the lift installed, we can put our wheel spacers on this side. Okay, now that I got the rear wheel spacers on, the last thing to do is reinstall the tires. Before installing the tires, I torqued the wheel spacers. I also torqued the tires after installing them. The torque spec for this vehicle is 80 foot-pounds. That's definitely a little higher than when we started. This has been my high lifter lift kit install on the Honda Pioneer 1000 Deluxe.